Hola, from the west side. It is me, DCThePurpleDiva. Welcome to Not So Random Chat. Sorry, y'all, had to do a little administrative and share out my chat because, YouTube is not always that good about doing it. Hey, uppity. Hey, save yourself, black woman. How y'all doing? Hey, Joe. So I have been in these YouTube streets. And I also watched tonight some of the Democratic convention. So I'll start with my thoughts on Kamala Harris's acceptance speech for vice president. Where shall I really start? Should I tell you how I really feel? All right, so let's start. So, Kamala got up there, we had the little picture biography of her growing up, her sister and, her family and all of these women and, making the historic of her being, the first woman of color, first woman of Indian descent, first woman of black descent, etc. But the whole speech was nice and flowery and fluffy, and it was to make you embrace her and all of this stuff. But I live in California, y'all, and she said that in part of the clips there was a soundbite with her talking about how she's for the black woman. Really, Kamala? I want to know when. Ironically, one of the points that she made, and y'all, this is just going to be me being petty, so just give me 1 second on this one, is that, we're at the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. Ironically, she belongs to the sorority. Hey, Kizzy. She belongs to the sorority that my founders broke away from in order to march for women's right to vote as black women, because she is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha and I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta. The women's suffrage movement was what split Alpha Kappa Alpha and created a Delta Sigma Theta. Just a little history for you guys. I just thought I'd have to put that out there. And although Kamala Harris is the first woman of color on the Democratic ticket for vice president, she is not the first black woman to run in the Democratic Party and actually make it to the convention. That would be my soror, the late Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. I just like to put that out there because I don't want the misinformation to be out there, and I don't want people to blot out the people that were before her. But I don't see Ms. Kamala Harris as being for the black woman. And let me tell you why. Because the number of black men that she helped to get incarcerated during her tenure in the state of California, that doesn't tell me that you're for the black woman. Because how can you be for the black woman and not be for the black man? And that's me. That's an honest question I'm asking. And this has nothing to do with, who you prefer to have in your life, because her husband is clearly white. But her law career has shown her that she's not for black men. So it's not who she married, it's what she's done. She's not my cup of tea either, uppity, you know? She's not my cup of tea, you know, but I would lie if I told you that I'm inclined to vote for Donald Trump. I I'd be lying. I just want this, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to fight for my freaking vote. Give me a good reason to vote for you, not just because you're not the opposition. That's all I'm saying. I know that the this election is going to be the weirdest election. If you guys saw, I think she was in Delaware and she was like in this auditorium where she gave her speech. And I believe that Mr. Biden was off to the side because she actually did her speech in Delaware. But with the delegates all over the country, I thought it was cool, seeing all of the different delegates in their different home states. I thought that was really cool. Okay. And I liked how they did that for the convention. But I'm going to be like my dude here on the side of me. We can't wait to see what Donald Trump is going to say now that Kamala has made her acceptance speech. And now that 44 has clearly spoken out in opposition to him. You know, clearly. I just gotta see this man get up there and talk, because y'all know it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a media show. Because that's what he's gonna do it for. Even though he thinks the media hates him. The media actually loves him. He gives them plenty of stories. But I really want Ms. Harris, you know, who was showing all of her blackness tonight, making sure we all know she went to a HBCU and that she is a member of a one of the Divine Nine, you know, that's fine and dandy, but sorry, ma'am, you need to give us more than that, you know? And I talked to some of her sorors, okay, who, are all happy that an AKA is, on the ticket. However, if they live here in California, they again have the same questions for her about her record. Her record was putting away black people. And the perception that she gave that she was better than us, because she's a different kind of black. I'm just saying. And she was born and raised in Oakland. Let's not forget that part. She said by doing for all black people will benefit. Okay, see, here's the thing. We're going to need you, Kamala Harris, to do some stuff specifically for black people. And you're going to need to say some of this stuff, because really, we don't see you as being for us, even though you are half Black, you know, Black Jamaican, that is. You feel like you're being punked, uppity? I know that white people go to HBCUs too, Matt, because my freshman year in college, I think I've shared this before, but my freshman year in college, I went to an HBCU before I went to a PWI. My freshman year, I went to Hampton, and one of the basketball players was straight white. He was not white from here. He was like white from Israel. He was like from Tel Aviv. But when since he had come to the United States, he had basically only been around Black people. And he went to an HBCU because he had a better chance of obviously getting a basketball scholarship. But at the time that I was in Hampton, their basketball team was no joke that year. So, oh yeah, they had the brown paper bag. Um, Ironically, some of the founders of Delta Sigma Theta, who were AKAs first, were darker hued. But obviously, during that time period in the early 1900s at Howard University, there were probably not as many people who were darker hued because of, colorism that was very, very prevalent in, the early 20th century, especially in a city. I'm sorry, it's my hometown, like Washington, D.C., because of it being the nation's capital. Yeah, I know some dark, dark, dark AKs, and I know some light, 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 damn near white deltas. You know, it's but traditionally, early on, yeah, it was basically fair skinned women in Alpha Kappa Alpha. But by the same token, most of the organizations had light skinned women early on. And I would have to say, I hate to say this, but early on, it was fairer skinned blacks that had money. And then sometimes a fairer skinned black child might get sponsored to school so that they could go to college by some white person. Because Howard University was started by someone, white for us, but it wasn't us that started the school. Yeah, but they were, I mean, I'm clearly not lighter than a brown paper bag. And even I would say even when I was in school, it depends on where you went to school. When I was at Hampton, I would say that there were a lot of lighter skinned AKAs. And then the ladies that were deltas at that particular school kind of ran the gambit. It just kind of it depends. Now, at at the school that I was at USC, there was a girl who was a legacy to Delta, Everybody in her family was a Delta, and she pledged AKA. And when she was online, she was the saddest little girl. She was so sad. And I was like, don't be sad with your decision. This is what you want to do. It don't matter what your family wants you to do. Because another friend of mine had even more pressure on him. His, I think his grandfather or great grandfather was one of the founders of Kappa Alpha Psi. And he pledged Alpha. So, but they have a lot of legacy stuff and all of that stuff, but with Kamala Harris, clearly she didn't have any legacy stuff because her mother was not, of black descent, and she was from another country. And, granted, we, you know, our organizations have chapters all over the world, but they're usually graduate chapters that are all over the world, the organizations. So, nobody in her mom's family would have been able to expose her to an H to the Divine Nine. She was exposed to that by going to a black school. Yeah, yeah. See, that's my thing. They might be ready for, like I said, we know that the country obviously was ready for someone who was of who was black as a man to be president. But the thing is who knows? Because once again, we are dealing with a person who is half black, but they're not half black from here. Again, her father is an immigrant from Jamaica. So who knows? You don't know how white people think, because when they see that, they look at mixed breed black people differently than they look at us who are full black for whatever reason. Because think about it. When Barack Obama, when 44 came out there, 4 years before he ran, nobody even knew who the heck he was. He just came out of nowhere, and no one thought that they were ready for him. So who knows? Because clearly, when 44 got in there, there were people who were Republicans and independents that voted to get him in. So yeah, I think it's really going to be dependent on what happens in this election. You know, with her being on the ticket as you know the vice president, because we have to think about it from this perspective. If Joe Biden doesn't win, he's not running again. This is it for him. He not gonna run again. He not like Bernie, who'll run until they dead. He's not gonna run again. He's gonna run this one time, and if he wins, we'll get what we get. And I wanted to say something else. I now understand why this man talks the way that he talks and repeats himself. We're thinking it's cognitive stuff and everything, but apparently Joe Biden has the same speech impediment that I myself have. He's a stutterer. And when you are a stutterer, sometimes you repeat yourself to keep yourself from stuttering. So that may be what we're seeing versus when we're thinking it might be some cognitive stuff. I didn't even know the man had a speech impediment. been nice if they'd have said something. You know, he wouldn't be the first. He wouldn't be the first. Wasn't there? Wasn't there a king of England that had a really bad stuttering problem? I mean, really bad. Biden will get your desperate vote for now. Oh my God. It could be a desperate vote. Well, quickly, I was going to talk about some of the other stuff that was going on in these YouTube streets. Just dumb stuff. You know, irrelevant people going after people, going after women's looks. You know, again, we're dealing with the colorism because they're saying these things about women who are darker hued, you know, or have more, I don't know, African features, which are beautiful to me personally. You know, but, you know, haters are going to say what they want to say just to try to get a rile out of people. And it's not working for them. They just need to let it go. They really need to let it go. Shouts out to my girl Kizzy's. I heard your video earlier, and I had actually listened to some of the stuff. I don't subscribe to this person's channel. Obviously, I don't subscribe to their channel. But I went and took a listen to some stuff because of another live that I was in earlier today that was commenting on some things that had been said by said YouTuber. So I went to go listen. Needed to go clean my ears out after I had listened. That's how bad it was. Just the depths of desperation that people will go to keep themselves relevant when they don't have any original thought. Hey, J Dog. Yeah, but Matt. The wild thing is that this colorism stuff that's within the black community is just sucks out loud. And you know, just because somebody is fair skinned doesn't mean that they're pretty, and just because someone is darker hued doesn't mean that they're ugly. And I hate the term "you're pretty for a dark skinned girl." Like, what the hell does that mean? So, if, in other words, you're saying that normally dark skin is ugly? Like, get the F out of here with that. You know, people have their preferences. I recognize that. I like the whole rainbow myself, Matt. But that stuff triggers stuff in a lot of people, and it's just not cool. It's like, if that's what you think, and keep that crap to yourself. Don't bring it out. You know, didn't we have light skinned girl, dark skinned girl, and then and even and even the continent has had their light skinned girl, dark skinned girl thing. It is embedded in our DNA as people of African descent, it appears. Because apparently the struggle with the color is not just here in the United States. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in the UK. It's on the continent. It's in the Caribbean. It's in South America. It's in Canada. And it's in, it's all over Europe. In any place that we have migrated to or been kidnapped and abducted to. And they did it to us. And we let them do it to us. Yeah, wannabes and the jigaboos. They're talking about school days. I, that's like one of my favorite movies, y'all. But if you noticed in that movie, school days, yeah, that's that. But if you looked at that, if you noticed in that scene, you had women of different hues on both sides. It was all in that. It was all about the hair, you know. And we as black women have a love-hate relationship with our hair. And that's no matter what grade you have. If you have what they call consider quote unquote good hair, you have a love-hate relationship with your hair too. We all do. Yeah, but yeah, school days kind of, hit the nail on the head as far as how it goes like in a college setting and everything with all of that stuff. And that was kind of how it was on a black college campus. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that colorism that is still going on to this day. I was in college back in the 80s. It was relevant for the time that it was done, but I believe it's still relevant because I believe that it still goes on to some extent, especially, in some of the Divine Nine, hate to say it, depending on where you go to school, you know, getting into the fraternities and sororities. I didn't even think about that. First of all, once I switched from an HBCU to a PWI knew that the entire Greek life experience for me was going to be different. Okay. And, you know, I'm kind of one of them girls, like, when I came to the West Coast, the ideals or the preconceived notions and stuff in regards to colorism that I had dealt with back home, where it was totally different out here. Because back home, even though I'm a brown girl, I was considered dark, and out here, I'm considered I'm considered brown. I'm like in between, not too light, not too dark, whatever. But as far as the fraternities and sororities out here, they weren't so much stereotypical as far as the way that people think or that they appeared like probably in HBCUs, like, all the light skinned girls are AKAs and all of their darker girls will be deltas. No, it's kind of a mix pot. and all of the pretty boys are not members of Kappa Alpha Psi. You know, some of them are, some of them aren't. you know, I mean, but I will say that, like at SC, you had a lot of the, how would you say, smarter, nerdier dudes that pledged Alpha. You know, like the ones that were in engineering and comp sci and that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, they were in there. But it's the colorism thing. I would say here there's more of an undertone of it in Cali, but in Hollywood it's very, very evident. You know, because the majority of the black actors and actresses are fair hues, even if they look like they're darker, you know, which is why, Lupita looks so dark compared to all, because majority of them are much fairer. You don't have that many that are darker skin. I will name somebody who's from like the old school, like a Jane Kennedy. At the time that Jane Kennedy was out, they would make they would colorize and texturize stuff to make her look darker because she was whiter than some of the white people that would be on the movies with her. Hey, Finley. Thank you so much for coming through and dropping me a like. I appreciate that. Lupita is beautiful. She's a very pretty girl, you know, and her features, the way her features set, it I would say it is appealing. But you can look at someone who is in the same color scheme as her, like a Gabby Sidibe, and her features are much more African. So they don't look at them, their attractiveness in the same way. But that's okay. Because even if black guys are not checking for Gabby, she got somebody checking for her. So, and you have, you you've got the. He had to clown. Yeah, my dude is over here clowning now about Gabby. Yeah. Just show the girl some love. Show that girl some love. I like show that girl some love. But did you guys hear about what was it? LeBron's son. Did y'all hear about the thing where he's talking about he's got a preference and all these girls that he's posting ain't near girl black. And if she is black, she mixed. Or she, Latina. And
go to Sierra Canyon. This is right in the middle of the valley. Ain't nothing over there but rich white girls.
And that's like, and it's just so funny that he's seeing it. But again, to my dude's point, that's all that's around him. He's not. In other words, he got his dad and mom who are from, from Ohio, and they're from a very black area, but they're bringing their kids up in an area where there's very few of us.
That is an exclusive private school.
So all he sees is, these little girls that don't look like us. and don't look like his mama.
Will Smith is the president of the board of the school.
Hmm.
Come on, man. CRK.
Yeah, well, Will Smith. We'll just leave that alone. I'm just going.
Man, all
Yeah,
celebrities and big time folks, all their kids go to that school.
yeah. Will and Jada always had some weird ideals of education for kids and stuff. So if he's on the board of that school, then they're probably teaching them
Do what
interest
like a king.
interesting
Damn it.
interesting ways.
Do what
And
you
then the other thing is that here in Cali, unlike other parts of the country, I'll say like Southern California, they swear a lot. You know, they just do. And it doesn't even matter.
It's not even a small, it's a norm.
Yeah, it's the norm out here. Yeah, it is. It ain't normal for me, but
You don't look at other folks like, yeah, oh, y'all tradition.
it ain't the norm for me. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I grew up in a part of the country where that was not the norm. It wasn't the norm when I was growing up, but it has now become more normalized in DC. But it's still, people still sometimes will give them a side eye because it's not like when I came to California, it was already a thing. It was already a thing here in the 80s. So we're now what, 2020, and it's just kind of a thing. But my preference is people that look like me. You know, I mean, I got a chocolate son. What I look like? What would I look like? I'm just saying. But people don't think about that kind of stuff, and they live their life the way they want. And if you happy, I'm happy for you.
What you talking about? I'm trim and light skinned with good hair. I'm fine.
Oh my goodness. Let me see what you
Women's
guys are
fight
saying.
for my delight.
Just like Will and Jada said, well, LeBron's son, at least he's looking at girls. Okay, they might not be black, but he's at least looking at girls.
Stay the
Because
fuck away from Will Smith's kids.
last time I checked, Jaden wasn't checking for girls.
Stay the fuck away from Will Smith's kids.
Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't he have a boyfriend? I, you know, I don't think he's checking for girls. You know, he about that other kind of life. I mean, but we could see that coming. Dude was wearing skirts and stuff. You know, I not too many men who are heterosexual outside of in the countries of in Scotland and in Ireland where they're wearing a kilt, wear skirts. I'm just saying. They don't. You know, and yeah, I remember, back in ancient times, the Romans had togas, but y'all know what kind of stuff was going on at those toga parties back in ancient times. They were kind of free with the sexuality. They were sexually fluid. So we'll just talk about, as far as I know, in modern day, it's not a fad for straight men or men who consider themselves to be attracted only to women to wear skirts unless it's part of their tradition, you know, as I said, in Scotland and in Ireland with kilts. Well, Jaden's had boyfriends, so Jaden appears to be sexually fluid. He so now he's dealing with a little white girl. Maybe she's a beard for him though, or maybe he's one of them, sexually fluid ones. Isn't that what his sister said she was? Sex. All these kids talking about they're sexually fluid. You know, I guess that used to be bisexual. Now they're sexually fluid. Sometimes they're, y'all. I can't. Oh, boy lovers. Yeah, boy lovers. Exactly. I don't know, but some of these men, uh, who claim to be straight, are questionable, but I'm not with them, so it's not really my business, but they've normalized everything. Everything is normalized now. Interracial dating is normalized, same sex normalized, being um, sexually fluid normalized, being asexual normalized. Personally, I thought asexual was just a celibate person before, but I guess it's a person who just doesn't need sex at all in their life, and they're you know neither attracted to men nor women. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's all kinds of things that, if it's a preference, it's a preference. I have a preference, but I'm not. That doesn't mean that I haven't. I'm just not. I'm just attracted to what I'm attracted to, I guess. You know, but within you know what I'm attracted to, I don't really care about the skin tone. I kind of care more about the character of the person more than their skin tone. And I've dated all different skin tones. So, but I didn't know he had a white girlfriend. Yeah, so he had a white girlfriend now. Yeah, but as far as I know with Jaden, I thought he was currently seeing boys or men, because I guess he's grown now. I guess he's grown now. Everybody's grown. All of these celebrity kids. You wondering, like, I don't talk about this too much anymore, but like Dwayne Wade's son, who isn't really at an age where he should be making such a drastic decision about who he wants to be, you know, but it's not my kid. Um, how would I don't know how I would react if my son was not into girls. I would still love him. I think it would be harder for him because he already has autism. So I think it would be harder for him if he was autistic and, you know, he wasn't looking for a traditional relationship with a female. I just think it would be harder for him. Oh, you love hood chicks, the around the way girls. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I, I mean, I've seen guys of other races that I think are attractive. I mean, I have dated like a Latino guy before, Puerto Rican. Um, but he was Puerto Rican. He was black Puerto Rican, and he considered himself black. You know, he got mad if anybody questioned. As a matter of fact, he questioned him about being, you know, about him being. He just said, "I'm black." He did not like to acknowledge being Puerto Rican. Weird, but he was Puerto Rican. You know, it is what it is. You know, we like who we like. That's the simplest way to put it. But I hate people who like just totally say, "Well, I wouldn't date anybody in my race," um, and it's for crazy reasons. Now, if you're just not attracted, it is what it is, you know. But if it's because, well, you've had bad experiences, and you know, the women in your race are tripping, or you know, whatever, that's a whole different situation. Same thing with women and men, you know. But I know that there are some women of color who don't date men of color because of past treatment by men of color. So they don't even want to be bothered with it. They're done. They have divested, so to speak. You know, and hey, I'm not attracted. I know I'm not attracted to all men of color. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You know, I'm okay with that. You know, as long as who I like, you know, what I like likes me. I'm good. You know, from that perspective, I'm good. We ain't got no problems. Dated a few Latinas. Yeah, I mean, growing up in DC, your choices. Okay, it DC is black and Latina and Latino. I mean, and but the majority of the Latinos in DC, you know, were black Latino. And as I said, a lot of them only identified as black, like my family. We're Afro Cuban, but we only identified as black, even though, you know, my dad was speaking fluent Spanish, you know, and we had Spanish names. We identified as black, you know, and it's probably because of where we grew up. We grew up in DC, and the city's primarily black. So if you are black and something else, I'm black. It was, you know, that's how it was, you know. But now, you know, like if you're doing the census, as I told you guys, for those of you who haven't done it, we get to say we're so many different things on the census. You know, I mean, if you haven't looked at it, y'all need to look at all the different choices of ethnicity you have. Y'all need to look at that. You know, at least they do acknowledge that for the most part, a lot of us who are black may have something else in us. You know, some of us may have Native American in us. Some of us may be biracial. Some of us may be, you know, black Latinos. And even though the majority, as I say, a lot of us, like in Cuba, black is black. They just speak Spanish. But they still don't treat them the same. I promise you that they don't. That's, I haven't been over to Cuba, during that short stint that it was open. But my dad did. And, he said, no, yeah, it's there, there's a little racism involved in communism. Rest assured, rest assured, in spreading out stuff so that everybody has somehow still. Hey, Jazzy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting me run. I appreciate that. Even though they have, supposedly, everybody's supposed to, there's still lack in the communities of color in Cuba. Still, you know, and unless you are, and there too, unless you're black and an athlete, I don't give a damn. They don't care. You know, think about it. Why do you think you've had athletes who defected from there and came over here? And notice that they were the black ones. Yeah, they don't treat black people that well in Cuba. They don't. Even though they were born and raised there, they still don't. And at the turn of the century, just for you guys who don't know, they put some of the black people off of the island. You know, when they decided that they didn't want the Irish there no more, who had been helping them, in the fields, being the overseers of the fields, and at the same time they had been impregnating, and so you had, black Irish, Cubans. Yeah, some of those people got put out of, you know, were asked to leave, and that's how my family, part of my family, came to be in the United States on my dad's side. Yep, that's how they got here. And that, oh, okay. No, this is something, there's still something in it, though, babe. Hey, Rachel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Yes, I remember you. I saw you over in Foodie's chat. Thank you for coming, Rachel. I did see you over there. Yeah, you guys, yeah. That is one of my friends. She is a monetized channel, and she's one of my friends that's trying to help me to get my hours so that I too can be a monetized channel. But in the meantime, I'm still working on my Teespring um, store. You know, just figuring out what I'm going to put in there and starting it up. you know, and I was kind of thinking about should I sell masks? Should I sell masks in there as part of that? Because they do have that as an option. And some people are selling masks. But I got to see if I can find a cool one in there, maybe. And maybe I will sew some masks. I just have to think maybe, but if I do some in there, I would probably like put like maybe some autism stuff on them. And then, because, anything that I want to do, even though I want to promote the channel, I want to also make sure that it's also promoting, autism awareness, but in a positive way, not the way that Autism Speaks does. But, you know, that's another show, another conversation. Um, if you ever think that you want to support any causes in regards to autism, please don't support Autism Speaks. If you ever think that you want to support some endeavors for autism, support other organizations like the Autism Society of America. The Autism Society of America is run by people who actually have autism and are speaking and self advocating. Autism Speaks is not about that. They're not about self advocating. They're not about people on the spectrum speaking for themselves. They think that they know better than our kids do. They think that they know better, and they want it to be about pity. They want to eradicate, they want to have people to eradicate autism. Well, here's the thing, because it's such a spectrum with autism, autism is not a debilitating neurodiversity for everyone. So for some people, the autism makes them, you know, the, it makes them brilliant in certain things, and you don't want to take that away. Well, that's part of, you know, they don't care about that part. You know, they're a money making machine. They get all this money in, and supposedly it's to do autism research and everything. Supposedly it's to, you know, go go for things to help, but it's not. It's not. It's not. And I'm telling you that as someone who is a parent, but there are YouTubers who are on the spectrum who will also tell you the same thing that I just said about Autism Speaks. Horrible organization that fooled millions of parents into thinking that they were there to help us. Now, that might have been the initial goal by the people who actually started it, but that's not what's going on with the organization currently. And at least for the last 10 years. Yeah. You know, and I did all those autism walks and everything. I am guilty of helping them to get money until I found out who they really are. And I can honestly say that they've never really done anything to help me and my son. Everything that I got for my kid, I got that through my own blood, sweat, and tears. And by, thankfully, I had a great pediatrician for my son when he was, an infant, up until, she retired. And she put me in the path of the right people. I got early intervention with him. I got involved in stuff, and I learned what I needed to do to learn, and I got partnered with the right people through my own efforts and through the efforts of other people who opened doors for me. Not Autism Speaks, you know, because I I served on the board of one of the quote unquote regional centers here in California for one of the organizations under it. So gave them some of my blood and sweat and tears so that I could find out what I needed to know so that I could make life better for my son once he was an adult. And that's why usually when I ask them for stuff, I usually don't have a hard time getting things out of the specific regional center that we're dealing with. However, sometimes it's difficult because you don't know always what you have a right to, and they're not always willing to tell you everything that you have a right to for your kid who's an adult. Yeah, economic status is the root. I Here's the thing, you guys. In looking at this current election, you have to think about, is is our country in a better position today than it was 4 years ago? Not whether are you personally in a better position, but is our country. And I don't know anybody who can honestly say that the country is in a better position. You know, clearly we're in a shambles when it comes to dealing with a pandemic that everybody else in the world seemed to know how to deal with, but we couldn't. And I still think that they're inflating the numbers, even though I actually know people who really had or have the actual quote unquote COVID-19. But I don't believe that all these people who they say have it or had it. Nor do I think that everyone whose death was attributed to it died from it. I think they just made some of them. They just said that it was that. But I'm gonna get ready to get off. I know you guys. I know how I do. Y'all know how I have these random my. So for those of you who are new, before I get off, what I do on my live streams is it's called Not So Random Chat, because but it's really random because we kind of random topics that I talk about, and sometimes people come up on it with me, but I still haven't really figured out how to. Well, actually, I did figure it out. I lied. I finally figured out how I can add people to the stream from my phone, but I'm not a real expert on it yet. But I did figure out how to do it in my on my phone. But I'm getting ready to get off of here, you guys. I will be back on tomorrow. But before I get off, y'all know how I do. I always come on camera. I always come up. Hey, everyone. So y'all know that it's really me. It's really me behind the avatar. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I just try to, share whatever knowledge. Oh, look at that hair. It's all kind of all over the place over there. Let me stick that in. Stick that one in. Put a bun on top of my head, y'all. All right, you guys. But thank y'all for coming. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, I offer you guys peace and blessings from the West Side. Please, please, people, stay safe out there in these streets and in these YouTube streets. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, because you didn't have to be here. You could have been anywhere else, but I appreciate you coming through here. See, rented lips. It's time for me to go. All right, you guys. Bye.